We're going to move now to talk about the challenge of sustainable economics. And I must give credit to our founding partners at the Center for International Governance Innovation, so-called CIGI. It was founded by Jim Balsillie and the director, Tom Bernes. I must say just personally how pleased I am to work with you. And I know I told the story this morning at breakfast on Tom Bernes, but about a year ago and a week or two, George Soros and Jim Balsillie had a dinner together. And then I got a phone call about 18 hours before last year's conference, talked with Tom Bernes on the phone, and the next day he was sitting there for the opening sessions. So that felt like a good partner to me. And things have continued to grow. We had an extraordinary time together in Davos, and Jim, I know I don't want to take away any secrets from the introductory remarks, but he kind of lit the place up with his challenge to all of us in the realm of environmental economics. And just want to say I look forward to working with you in the future. And Tom, I look forward to working with you day to day. I think together we can do a great deal to help this planet. Tom Bernes.
Thanks, Rob. It's a pleasure for myself and for CIGI to be here. Rob told you part of the story of how we got together to work together a little bit on the first conference at Cambridge, which was very exciting. Rob and I were in a number of discussions subsequent about how to build a partnership between CIGI and INET, and Jim Balsillie and George Soros got together and said, no, you guys are, you're just too conservative in your thinking. What we really want is something which is much larger, which is much more innovative, and that led to the announcement that Rob mentioned in Davos of a major partnership between CIGI and INET, which we're very excited about developing. This panel is about sustainable economics. We have about an hour and 20 minutes, I'm told, so we're going to try and move fairly quickly, and we want to have a good session with the audience. I'm going to ask the panel members if they could come up and join. Unfortunately, Pavan could not make it at the last minute to join us, but we have our three panel members. But before I introduce them and we start, Jim Balsillie is, I think as many people know from probably even without the program, is co-CEO of Research in Motion, most known for the BlackBerry, which most of us carry around, although they told me I had to turn it off so as not to interfere with the microphones. 10 years ago, Jim was very concerned about the state of both how to strengthen the quality of students coming out of universities in Canada, how to make them more aware of international global issues, which were self-evident to him obviously with his work through Research in Motion. He established the Center for International Governance Innovation at CIGI. We're now celebrating 10 years. He's chairman of my board, amongst other things. He's a tremendous supporter. The issue of sustainable economics is one which we've been developing a program on. Jim serves on the Secretary General of the United Nations high-level panel on sustainable development. He's the only non-governmental person on that panel. This is a subsequent one to the one on financing, which I think Joe Stiglitz and some others were involved with. Jim has agreed to make some introductory remarks to us today on the issue. And so with that, I'll call upon Jim if he could come up and make some remarks, and then we'll turn to the rest of the panel. Great. Jim, please.
Thanks so much, Tom, and thanks so much, Rob, for your kind remarks, and George, for your vision to dare to be great again. And so it's my, have you got this, you put the next slide up? I don't have a slide advancer. I've given myself what I call the easiest job this weekend, because I'm putting forward 3 statements that I want to support that I think all 3 are self-evident. And then I'm putting a 4th question to the panel and to you all here to address. So actually that comes up pretty good. I was a little concerned that would be fuzzy. I was reading the UNEP came out with a green economy report, and the OECD has a yet to be released report on the green economy synthesis. And so all I did for my slides was just grab some of the better charts that I thought supported the 3 things that I wanted to axiomatically defend today. And so the first thing, the 3 questions, or the 3 statements I want to support. 1, sustainability is a very urgent issue that needs urgent attention. The second is that there is a great opportunity in green growth, and there will be a lot of wealth creation in the dematerialization of the economy. And the third one is that solutions will be very challenging to craft and to implement. And the reason I chose this, 1, it's an easy job to do, and second, I was hoping the panel would not spend their time on those, and the only thing that the folks here should do is either go after the 4th question or say, I don't agree with those 3 things that you're saying are so obvious, which is fair game. And if you do agree with the 3, then the 4th question is, what is the research agenda to address this? And specifically, what is the role of INET and the research challenges to unlock this very, very challenging issue? Now, you look at this slide, and I believe, Bill, you had a lot to do with this ecological footprint analysis. That's kind of his baby. And that's kind of that blue dotted line and that green dotted line. And it's really to illustrate the challenge is that, you know, the orangey ones are Africa, the yellow ones are European and Americans, and green are North Americans, and then Asia and LATAM are sort of in between. And it's really a linear correlation between wealth and ecological footprint. So it's real simple. The more you develop, the more you go up into the right. And those that are on the left side of the development, they're saying if you don't help us develop, we won't play ball on coming down on the footprint. So so fundamentally, inequity is a precondition to getting everybody below the green line. They say, well, we want to be in that green box with you. And the longer we spend, the longer we delay dealing with this, the smaller that box gets. So this is the fundamental challenge. Next slide. And the UNEP calls this a gross. We've come out of an era of a gross misallocation of capital, and again, this is a bit contentious, and all of this data is fair to debate, but I don't think directionally it's unfair. And Rockstrom had a report, and I know, Bill, you know them well. They just listed 10 areas of planetary boundaries. This is a case where the fuzziness of the PDF scan is hard to read. But we seem to be, if we're not passing these boundaries, we're stressing them. And so, you know, the imperative of dematerializing the economy is, I think, self-evident. But again, if it's not, we should debate it, and then this whole issue of sustainability is really not a fruitful debate. But if it is, then it's a seriously urgent imperative. Next slide. And so when you look at this is the OECD report. You really need to that previous slide said 350 parts per million. This one's 550 parts per million, and the next one is 450. So nobody knows just what's the right amount of carbon the atmosphere can handle, and nobody quite knows how it's going to interact. So as I pull down different sources of data, they use different thresholds. So, but their report is it costs about 4% of GDP to achieve this 63% dematerialization or reduction of greenhouse gases, to hold a 550 threshold, if you think that's the prudent value threshold for economy. And again, we can debate issues of prudency and all of this kind of stuff, which I think is entirely appropriate, but I don't think you can be persuasive that this isn't an urgent issue. But again, that's obviously fair for someone to debate. And the reports from the UNEP and the OECD are if these kinds of mitigation exercises are not invested in, which is kind of 1 to 2% of global GDP in green elements starting very soon, then the overall effect on GDP is very, very substantial amounts. Again, we can debate, but very precipitous drops once the natural material systems just can't deliver us what they need anymore. Next slide, please. Now, this is just really to give some evidence to what's the opportunity of the green economy, because heading up to Rio +20, that's a lot of the narrative, which is the opportunity of the green economy. I think to some extent that's right, but there's just not a couple $1 trillion hanging around out there to affect these kinds of structural changes just by being aspirational. And so, you know, the opportunity for wealth creation, I think, is self-evident that this kind of transition means there's going to be a lot of innovation, there's going to be a lot of new businesses, and people are going to, there's going to be a lot of new employment, a lot of new income, a lot of new wealth out of this. And this is just the human condition. And as I say, business will always make money, whether it's, you know, whatever the circumstances you give business, it will make its business. It's just how do you want to channel and frame it. And so if you create a construct where there's returns for this kind of innovation, there's no question that many of them will, whether it's carbon sequestration or nuclear or reusables or so on. And there's a lot of work going on. Korea's got their Green Growth Institute and their stimulus plan. The China's 12th National Plan is very ambitious. Europe and certainly UK have their carbon mitigation targets, as does Brazil and many, many others. So there is a real opportunity in this. And its core to be successful in this is to harness business for its innovation and dynamism to really help you do that. Next slide. And this is my final slide. And really, and yet, the solutions are extraordinarily challenging to craft and to implement. And fundamentally, I think we need large systemic changes. We have to go at the incentives of all actors, savers in the capital markets. It needs to be comprehensive. It needs to be integrated. It needs to be global, but it needs to be also adapted to local conditions. There is, and this is from the OECD report, just listing the policy instruments that are available. So you have this raft of policy instruments, and yet they have a tremendous number of economic consequences when they're implemented, but there's also aspects of sustainable consequences if they're not implemented. And so I think this is what makes this such a challenging topic. I think it's admirable, the amount of corporate social responsibility that's going on, and Michael Porter had an HBR article on creating shared value that came out, I think, last month. And these are all great, and yet it seems to be we do all these great things to take a step forward, and yet we lose ground. And so I think we have to be wary of incrementalism and false positivism in this issue. And so my question to the panel, you know, if you don't agree with these three assertions, that's fine. Then articulate that. But if you do, what is the research agenda and what is the role of this group and this kind of brain power in unlocking this very vexatious challenge? Thanks very much. Okay, you're good?